Hi, I'm Sam. If I can invite, and if you guys could help me welcome our panelists up, that would be great. Woo! Okay, so while they're getting settled, if you haven't been to an Ask It Basket before, it's pretty cool. Basically, we have a set of panelists up here that have had some pretty good recovery experience under their belt, and we're going to ask them some questions, and we're going to kind of learn how they have moved through their journey of recovery. They all offer a lot of recovery, strength, hope, wisdom, and it's a cool thing. Is this my table? Yeah, cool. It's my table. Thanks. Okay, so if you guys want to start by introducing yourself, we'll start here. If you want to say your name, what you're in recovery for, and if you want to, you can let them know as well how many years or whatever amount of time you have under your belt.
Sure. Hello, I'm Lindsay, and I am in recovery from drugs and alcohol for about 8.5 years. And I come to Celebrate Recovery specifically to work on codependency, like people pleasing. Yeah, that's me.
Cool, thanks, Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Chastity. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. Struggle with alcohol and drug addiction. I will celebrate 2 years next month.
Yeah. Hi, Chastity.
I'm Joe, grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I've struggled with all sorts of things, but the last few years I've been working a lot on my codependency and anger, and glad to be here.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, I'm Jeff McIntosh, grateful believer in Jesus Christ. Director of Pastoral Care here. Journey recovery actually partly was being a substance use therapist for 5 years before coming on staff here, and grateful to be here.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. Hi. Okay, so we're going to jump in, so hopefully we have a good amount of time for several questions. So our first question tonight is, what is the difference between working the steps and just simply going to meetings? So let's start with Joe.
It's great that everybody comes to a meeting, and we're glad anybody comes. For me, I come, I love to worship, I love to listen, but working the steps is where you dig a little deeper into your own shortcomings and the things that you need to work on. So both are great, but you really need to dig in and work on the problems that got you here.
Thanks, Joe. Chastity, you want to pitch in?
Yes. Meetings are great, like you said. Meetings, you get a lot of good information. You have other people's input. But when you do the steps, when you're working the steps, for one thing, you're saying that you can't, that God can, and you're going to let him. And that's the biggest part, is that you're going to let him. And then when you have a sponsor, they're going to help you go through, I heard it at a meeting the other night, that they said pretty much like your roadmap to how you got to where you are. So it kind of shows you the repeated patterns that you have of that insanity that you were going through and how to get out of that. So that's what the steps really do.
Love that. Yeah, I feel like the steps are a little bit more of a deeper jump into than just simply going to meetings. Yeah. Okay, so next question, let's move to, how do you pick up a chip for something invisible like codependency, depression, or people pleasing? And what does it even look like to drop those kinds of rocks? Lindsay?
Oh, okay, so that's funny that's my question. Because it is hard to, when I struggled with drugs and alcohol, it was very clear when I would pick up a chip. But coming for like codependency or people pleasing, it's about having the intention to work my program specifically for that and kind of have that in the front. I'm just more aware of it. Like the second I'm people pleasing, if I just picked up a chip, I'll kind of remember like, oh, I got to pick up another chip. Or it brings my attention to what I'm trying to work on. And then if I fall back, and then I can start like a new thing, like maybe journaling, or I pick up a chip for like doing affirmations in the morning or something like that. So like self-accountability.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Lindsay. Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, is that on? Yeah. I think for working on stuff like that, it's, especially picking up the first chip, it has to do with surrender to needing to work on those things and keeping with the process, picking what those are asking people on different things that help and moving forward.
Yeah, it can be really hard. I like that this question said the word invisible, because that's how I'm a codependent, and that's how I felt too. Like, well, how do I know when I'm being codependent? I'm just being me, you know? And it took going to meetings a lot and working my steps and working with my sponsor to realize what my defects were and where the categories of codependency I really needed to dive into. So one of mine is rage, and I just remember one day being like, wow, I'm really tired of raging, and I'm gonna pick up a chip for this. And that was accountability, knowing this was the date that I made a decision to stop this. So chips are like a physical reminder for me. So it's kind of hard with something like codependency, but it's just a decision made, I think, for me. Thanks, guys. So the next question, let's do, what triggered you into freedom? Joe?
What triggered me into freedom, some of you have heard my testimony, but I was the father of 2 children, and my life seemed to be going pretty well, but I realized that I wasn't living up to the potential of what I needed to do. I needed to be a true father, not just a caregiver, not just a provider. And I got born again in 1987 and got set free right after that. And everything seemed great at that point. And I was set free from alcohol, which was my main thing. But over the years, I found that I had to dig really deep to find out what made me an alcoholic to begin with. And true freedom, for me, it came from accepting the Lord first and then working on my sobriety.
Thanks, Joe. What about you, Jeff? What triggered you into freedom?
Yeah, I came to faith at 19. Before that, I was, there was a process of figuring out that I thought God was there, and then looking at the path that I was on and where it was going to lead, kind of coming to myself and reconciling the fact that I believe God was there. And if he was, honestly, his opinion is all that matters in the universe, really. And I had to get right with that. And he set me free from the lifestyle I was living after coming to faith in Christ.
Thank you. Okay, so how about, what does good accountability look like versus bad accountability? Chastity.
Oh, let's see. Good accountability is someone that is not going to co-sign your crap. They're not going to. Bad accountability is somebody that's going to go along with what you're saying and kind of people please and egg you on in a direction you probably shouldn't be going. But good accountability is not going to do that. And it doesn't always feel good, like it doesn't. But that's really the accountability that we need.
Yeah, awesome. Sure. Lindsay, what about you?
That was a really good answer. I think also I need to go to people that are safe and have the space to help me with my problem or issue without taking it on and bringing in their own stuff. So I like to go to people that are working a program. I see them working a program. And also certain people I go to for certain strengths that I know that they have. And I know not to, maybe necessarily go to them for something I know that that's not their strong point. So for me, I like to have a lot of accountability, so I have a lot to choose from.
Good answer. Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, it can be, especially starting out for me, good and bad accountability was confusing. I didn't really know who yet to listen to. And again, over time working with sponsors, I realized that, oh, okay, hang on. So if somebody tells me, go tell them what you feel. And that's probably not great accountability advice. A better accountability is going to be like, why don't you pause, make a phone call, journal about it, something that keeps the focus on me and my recovery. Thanks, guys. So the next question, let's do, how do I respond and set boundaries when someone says something inappropriate to me? Joe?
I think what you just covered is, first you have to work on how you do it. So first you pray about it. You might call your accountability partner and say, hey, I have this problem, but you want to always address them in love. You don't always have to just let it go, but you probably shouldn't respond right away, especially if it's in anger. So take a step back, take that pause, pray about it, talk to your accountability partners, talk to other people in the program that have a little more time than you do maybe. And then when you go back and confront that person, it's in love, it's not in anger.
Great, yeah, with love. That's awesome. Chastity, what about you?
Yes, that's a good answer. And then also, too, what I think is really important is that you are very clear about what your boundary is. And don't, before recovery, you know, when you're in the people please and everything else, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And then you realize that if it's something, a boundary that you need, they may not like it, and that's okay. And it's probably a good boundary if they don't like it. And like I said, that's okay. You know, if you have to realize sometimes that your feelings matter just as much as somebody else's. And so it's okay to set those boundaries and
Yes.
speak up for yourself.
Good one, yes. Okay, how about we hear from everybody on that? So let's do Jeff next.
Okay. Yeah, I think a boundary is something you're willing or not willing to do with somebody else. So it's not to get them to change, it's not to get them to, but it's just what you own and what you're willing or not willing to do with the person. In a situation like that where they've said something offensive in some way, it's taking a step back. I think the key word there was respond instead of react. I think it's how much of this, what expectation of mine was broken, were they intending to, is this somebody that I'm going to have contact with? Do I need to confront them? But if you do, then I think you go at it and say, hey, when you said this, I felt this. I need, don't say that anymore, around me, please. And then what they do from there is you'll have to decide how you enforce that boundary by removing yourself or not. But I think if you say it that way and you're taking responsibility, that's offensive to me. I feel, not you tried to do this, not you're trying to be rude, not reading their mind, not going into any of that, but just I won't listen to this type of talk. Please respect that. Usually it'll work out with somebody because most of the time it wasn't intentional, but sometimes you have to get more advice on how to deal with a troublesome person. But.
Yeah, respond instead of react. That's one of my favorite tools I learned in recovery. That's a good one. Thanks for saying that, Jeff. Lindsay.
So for boundaries, I thought I knew what boundaries were, and I was setting them a lot, and they weren't really boundaries. They were just demands. So for boundaries, it's really, I have to pause. I like the P, the pause, the pray. And I have to figure out what it is that I value and why I'm putting that boundary up, so then I can get really clear on what do I have to do if they don't respect my boundary, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Thanks. Okay, so what keeps you motivated to continue to work your program at recovery, even when you feel deflated? Joe?
I think the most important time is when you feel defeated. There's days you get in your car and you just feel great, and you come to here or any other recovery meeting and you're just happy to be there. And that's not that you're not going to get something out of it. I get something every time I come to any of them. But it's when you feel defeated is when you really need it the most. You need to be able to come and just tell people, if you're feeling terrible, don't walk in and when somebody says, how are you doing? Say, oh, I'm great. Say, I'm struggling today, and let them pick you up. That's what we're here for. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ, and just come and let people know how you're doing when you feel defeated, and let us help you to lift up and not feel so defeated.
Thank you. Chastity, what about you?
I know that when I don't work my program, I know what happens. I had 5 years and was not working my program and had a relapse. So that's why I'm coming up on 2 years. And I know in the beginning, before my recovery, it didn't feel near as bad as that relapse did. Like that relapse was way worse than what it was. All the feelings that I felt, So yeah, that's what keeps me, even when I'm tired, knowing that I've got to work the program, and just constantly digging in and wanting to learn more about patterns that I've had and why I act certain ways. And, it's almost like that was kind of more of a drive, you know, that relapse. It really
Yeah.
was. But it reminds me, I don't want to go back to that. So I know what I have to keep doing, not to go back to a relapse.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so next question. What hope have you found in recovery? Jeff?
I think the amazing testimonies of people that I've helped work with through both therapy and also being around here, around recovery, is when people really work a program and they get to know God and Jesus sets them free, and then they work through their stuff. It's amazing. I see it over and over again what God does. And when people are willing to do it, even when it hurts, or the last question when they're having doubts and they push forward, they really become who they were meant to be, and that's an amazing, hopeful thing to see.
Thank you. Lindsay?
What gives me hope? The fact that I have a microphone gives me hope. No, recovery gives me hope.
Yeah, what hope have you found in recovery?
What hope
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
So really, I mean, the fact that you guys give me a microphone, like with me and like all my hurts, habits, and hang-ups that I come here with, it is like a safe place to come and talk openly about it and get the support. So even when I'm having a really bad day, like I know that this comes every Monday and there's other meetings and other support. And even when I'm not here, you know, I'm talking to a lot of people that are in this room. So just the support and me to be able to be me and like be accepted and loved gives me all the hope.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have time for one more question, so I'm going to ask it, and then we're going to go this way and have everybody answer it. So the last one for tonight is, when I am not working my steps, is it my sponsor's job to motivate me?
Great question. In my opinion, no. In my opinion, it was explained to me, like the sponsor is there to guide. My sponsor cannot want my recovery more than I do. So it is my responsibility to reach out to my sponsor, create the time, keep the communication open. I think it's definitely my responsibility to reach out.
Thank you.
Great answer. That's exactly what I was going to say, is they cannot want it more than you.
Yeah.
I mean, they just can't. You have to want it. You have to want it. They are there to guide you, you know, but they're not supposed to be the driving force behind it. You have to be that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your responsibility to work your steps. Your sponsor is there to help guide you through it. Normally, at a time that I don't want to do something, I'm probably not reaching out to my sponsor either. So, you know, it's only their responsibility to help you enough if you call them and ask for the help. But nobody can work those steps for you. You have to work them. You have to want it. And, you know, it's your recovery. It's not theirs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the saying, right, in recovery, is that, you know, you want what they have. So it has to come from your desire to get the freedom that somebody else did. And they're just pointing to the steps that they stepped on that worked for them. They're not taking over for you. They can't do it for you. But it's worked for millions. So keep chasing. Keep doing it.
Absolutely. Okay, so are we confused of whose responsibility it is? No, it's ours, right? It's ours. I definitely, when I first started out, there was times where I think I didn't even know this yet, but I wouldn't reach out to my sponsor on purpose because for whatever reason, you know, I wasn't ready, I was scared, whatever it was. And I remember having the thought, like, well, why isn't she calling me? She hasn't heard from me in a few days. Shouldn't she be saving me right now? And that's like, codependent. So it took me a minute, and now I realize very much, and I love what almost every one of you said, of that we have to want it. I have to want my recovery more than anybody else, specifically my sponsor. My sponsor is just there to help guide me through it, so I'm not doing it alone. So thank you guys so much for your vulnerability, for your bravery, for your honesty. This is exactly what it takes to get recovery. This is also kind of similar of what you can experience in small group with sharing, people being honest, vulnerable, hearing hope, hearing strength in the rooms, and for me, knowing I'm not alone in whatever I'm going through. So thank you guys so much. You guys can go down now if you like. Woo-woo! Yeah! Bring it here. I'll take them. Okay, so as they're going down, I would like to invite up our chip huggers, because we're going to move into chips. Yeah, chip huggers!